The Florida Gators won a football game against the Charlotte 49ers, and that's kind of all we could say about it, really. It sucked. We're going to talk about it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Monday. It's a victory Monday, but it's a victory Monday that we're pretty upset about. I'm Brandon Olsen, or at least I'm pretty upset about it. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. If you haven't yet signed up for Florida Victorious and you want to, save 20% off your first month using promo code LOCKED. That's LOCKED for 20% off your first month with Florida Victorious. And we're going to get right into it. I will let you know, I watched the game live on Saturday night, Florida versus Charlotte. Watched that live on Saturday night. On Sunday, I watched it 2 more times. At no point did I feel good watching that game. There are some things that are just honestly completely unacceptable. Offense started hot with scripted plays. And for those of you who don't know what scripted plays are, pretty much every team or every offense starts the game with a set of like 10, 15 plays, whatever the number is varies. But they're like, hey, this is how we're going to start the game. Because after that, you have to start making adjustments to the adjustments that the defense is going to make to you. So you start with these scripted plays. Billy Napier has been very good with scripted plays. Okay? You look at basically every week, the past couple of weeks, they've started off with these hot plays where we saw against Charlotte, you ran that motion, you fake the screen to Ricky Pearsall, and then you throw it to Khalil Jackson down the sideline. And stuff like that works. It's beautiful. It's the second week in a row that we've seen that fake screen wheel play come out, and the second week in a row in which it worked. So I would like to see them call it, I don't know, after the first or second drive of the game. Call me crazy. But calling that after that first or second drive of the game might still work. Doesn't have to be part of the scripted plays. But the bigger issue is once you finish the scripted plays, Billy Napier just goes, oh, that creativity? Throw it out the window. We don't want anything to do with it anymore. That drives me up a wall because I understand that so many Florida Gators fans have been like, oh, Florida needs an offensive coordinator. I think you need a passing game coordinator. Even I am starting to shift towards you need an offensive coordinator because it's just stuff that shouldn't happen. Like Billy Napier, he's done a good job of the CEO part, the recruiting part, the building this team part. But offensive play calling has just been far too inconsistent. And it's stuff like the second half against Tennessee, which again, I understand because Graham Mertz had his hands hurt. But even then, the calls that you did call were just lackluster. And then you look at the Charlotte game, and so much of the calls were just lackluster. And it's starting to get to the point where even I am saying, hey, Nate, you need to get with the offensive coordinator stuff. But at the same time, there's only so much complaining that we can do about it because that's not something you can rightfully address until the offseason. So for now, we're just going to have to deal with it, and we're just going to have to see how it goes. But it's not pretty right now, offensive play calling wise. It's not, and it sucks. I will also say, it's not just Napier's offensive play calling that has been giving people fits and been really driving me crazy. I know that not many people talked about this, but it drove me wild. Coach Armstrong, for as good as he has been, like he's been lights out play calling wise. During the Charlotte game, he was like flipping out and screaming at the referees to get a timeout, and he was mad he wasn't getting the timeout. That bothers me because the fact of the matter at that point was Florida didn't have a timeout. So you're throwing a fit on the sideline to not have a time. Like you couldn't call a timeout because you didn't have any, and you're flipping out, screaming, and stuff like that. It's just like, dude, we have to be more aware here. And I hate saying we because I understand I'm not out there. I'm not out there putting my job on the line every single week. I'm not out there putting my life on the line like players do every single week. I understand. I hate saying we. Florida, you have to be more aware there. It's just like, I understand if it's like a one-off instance, but so often there are these mental lapses. And here's the thing. If you are a coaching staff who you preach being detail-oriented, that's your whole shtick. We care about the details, the process. Then get the details right. It's as simple as that. You have 3 timeouts per half. When you call those 3, you can't be on the sideline screaming at the officials that you want to call a timeout. You can't, because guess what? You're supposed to be detail-oriented. Special teams. Holy. Look, I don't like calling for anybody's job. There needs to be a change with how special teams are approached. Every week, I'm pretty sure every week so far, if not at least 3 of the weeks, we've had a play where Florida's had 10 guys on the field. 10. If you're new to football, you can have 11. In fact, you should have 11. But multiple times this season, Florida's had 10 guys on the field. This past week, it happened on Charlotte's long field goal attempt. You didn't have anybody to return the kick. So you had 10 guys there, or 9 on the line, 1 behind the line, and nobody else. Keyshawn Johnson ran off the field right before the kick. He would have been the 11th. But he ran off the field. And again, that's a true freshman. Like I'm not going to be mad at the true freshman for making a mistake there. I am going to be mad at the coaching staff who says we are detail-oriented. Detail-oriented. Then pay attention to the damn details. Because, like, if that's what you're here for and you're not doing it, what are you here for? Get a special teams coordinator that is a special teams coordinator. Okay? You've got 1 billion people on staff. Get a special teams coordinator that 1 is on field and 2 doesn't suck at his job. Just saying. Like, yeah, it was a win. And I know a win is a win, but it was a pathetic win. A miserable win. You should have blown Charlotte out of the water. Nobody should feel good about this win. And I'm not saying that in the sense of like, oh, there's too many Gators fans happy about this win. I can't think of a Gators fan that is happy about this win. Because we know last week you did a fantastic job of burying Tennessee. You had a hangover game against Charlotte. But we know that if that hangover game carries into Kentucky, you would have lost to Kentucky 3 years in a row. And it's very hard for me at this point to say if I think Florida will win or lose the game against Kentucky because, well, yeah, I want to say that after a bad performance, you're going to turn it around. But also, Florida hasn't been great on the road under Napier. Florida's made too many boneheaded decisions for me to go, you can go into your full SEC stretch and walk out of there fine because of the stupid errors. And like, I don't like saying stupid errors, but they're stupid errors. It's as simple as that. We are about to talk about this offense laying an egg. I kind of like, yeah, you moved the ball, but didn't score. we'll talk about it where I'm going to be very, very frustrated. But before we do that, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, or every new potential special teams coordinator or offensive coordinator hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your not small SEC program. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So set it up, add your job, put the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring Napier. Simple tools like screening questions makes it easier for you to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. There's a reason that small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors, Napier. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to join the Locked On Gators Discord, links in the description below. We have a jolly old time during games, but the offensive line, yeah, we're going right into the offense here. The offensive line played poorly. Flat out, left to right. They played poorly, which is incredibly frustrating because you have two offensive line coaches. Offensive line should play well. I will say that for me, I get it. Right tackle is between Lindell Hudson and Damian George. And as fine and dandy as that is, neither of them played very well against Charlotte. And I say that because, well, you had Lindell Hudson start the half against Charlotte, and then you had Damian George play most of the second half, if not all of the second half, against Charlotte. However, that's not the part that frustrates me the most about the offensive line play in this game. Far too inconsistent. And I again, I don't like calling players out. I don't like speaking negatively about players at all. But I don't think Austin Barber played a good game. And this is a guy that the huge majority of Florida Gators fans going into this season, we were expecting him, and I say we because I do include myself in the group of people that expected Austin Barber to take that next step. We were expecting him to take the next step. And this is a guy that we view as an NFL tackle, and he just didn't dominate Charlotte the way that a future NFL tackle should dominate Charlotte. There were plenty of times where Florida Gators players that we think and we view as future NFL players did dominate Charlotte. I don't think Austin Barber did. And I know that there's the clip on Twitter of him get like the edge rusher just trying to long arm him and then falling to the ground. Then Austin Barber finishes the play, and that's great. And I understand you're going to lose a play here and there, but I just don't think Austin Barber played to the level that he should have played at. He got Graham Mertz annihilated on a play. And again, if you're going to be an NFL offensive tackle, you shouldn't get beat like that by a Charlotte edge rusher. That's just not how things should go for you. It was a rough game. Throughout, really. I don't know why. I don't know. In the second half, Micah Mazuka, who was suspended for the first half, second half, Micah Mazuka did not play. And I don't know if that was for any other reason. Maybe that was part of the internal discipline that we heard that Florida would have for those players that got suspended. But Dante Sanders did play. Damian George did play. Micah Mazuka was the only one that didn't play. And maybe that's because his punch throwing was the most egregious because he squared up against the Tennessee defender and swung. So maybe it was that. But Yeah, it wasn't awesome. There's just no other way to put that. It wasn't awesome. I don't know why Micah Mizuga didn't play again. Maybe it was just, hey, Najee Harris, let's get him more reps. And so he played every single snap at right guard. Maybe that was it. But the offensive line underwhelmed. And if you play like that against SEC programs, you're going to get dog walked. Simple as that. Also, can we please protect Graham Mertz? I feel like I'm saying a lot. And I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to go like off the dome here with watching that piece of crap performance 3 times. There's no other way to put it. But can we please protect Graham Mertz? Why was he hit so much? And why was this the game that Billy Napier chose to experiment more with quarterback runs? Designed quarterback runs. I don't get it. I understand that, this is the game where you should be able to kind of have your way with the opposition. I don't like the QB, or sorry. I don't have an issue with RPOs where Graham Mertz has the green light to run the ball. I don't have an issue with zone read where Graham Mertz is an option to keep the ball. It looked to me like they ran like QB power or QB smash or like a designed quarterback is the only option to keep the ball here. And I hated it. I hated it because that shouldn't be a thing. Like that shouldn't be a thing with Graham Mertz against Charlotte. If you want to do that against LSU, Georgia, Florida State, against a good program, then do that. But I just inherently disagree with doing that against Charlotte, especially when your offensive line is not blowing them off the line of scrimmage like they should have been. Like, I understand if your offensive line is just mowing dudes down, but they weren't. And so I think that that was just an uncalculated risk. I'm fine with calculated risks. Like I'm that's not a problem for me. Because again, I this coaching staff is supposed to be detail oriented. I think I am a detail oriented person, so I'm fine with a calculated risk, not in a game against Charlotte with the QB run when he's already been hit multiple times. And also, the hits on Graham Mertz were big hits. They were big hits. Like he got rocked a couple times. I remember the Trevor Etienne pass blocking where he's the one that, which by the way, like Trevor Etienne needs to improve his pass blocking. He upended Kamari Wilson in the spring game this year, which whole other story. He upended Kamari Wilson in the spring game this year by basically just putting his shoulder into Kamari's hip and lifting. And that's what he did, and it worked. When you're in live game situations and when your quarterback can get hit, you can't do that. And when you're working against someone blitzing through the A gap, you can't do that. When you see a safety coming off the edge, sure, you can have a little bit of leeway to do that. But when you're talking about a linebacker or safety or anybody coming through the middle of the field, you can't do that. You don't have that freedom. You need to put some rocks in your pockets, identify he's coming in, get set, and use your hands. Use your hand. Don't elbow, shoulder, whatever you're trying to use your hand. Put your hands on them and stop them. The Florida Gators do not have a good pass protecting running back right now. And that sucks. And again, I know I harp on this all the time, man. It's not the sexy play. Graham Mertz got sacked because Trevor Etienne did a bad job in blitz pickup. Simple as that. That's why I care about running backs being able to pass protect. Because Graham Mertz got sacked and hit kind of hard because Trevor Etienne didn't do his job in pass pro. Trevor Etienne did do his job running the football, and Billy Napier needs to make it a focal point of this offense to get Trevor Etienne the ball. I will say the only reason I could see him not getting the touches against Charlotte is because you wanted to keep him as fresh as possible for SEC play, which starts this week against Kentucky. It could be that you wanted to give Montrell Johnson more reps to get into a rhythm because he's just been he hasn't been bad this year. He's been worse than he was last year. Montreal Johnson has still been better than most running backs, but he's been worse than we saw last year from him, and we were expecting him to take another leap this year, and he hasn't done that. I don't know if he's dealing with injury. He's just been worse at creating yards after contact, and he's had some vision errors, I want to say. I remember I brought this up on the live stream on Saturday night. Hayden Hansen was blocking a defender to the side, towards the sideline. They were kind of the only guys. It was the only player that can make a play on the run was that defender that Hayden had his hands on. And I don't know why I'm going like this. It was one arm, he was moving him. And Montreal chose to go to the outside where the defender was instead of cutting behind Hayden and picking up more yards. It's just been weird with Montreal lately. I don't know if there's something going on with him, but it's not exactly confidence inducing when you have someone like Trevor Etienne who's been lighting it up relatively consistently. So I think you need to get Trevor Etienne the football if you're Billy Napier. But it was just another part of this game that was frustrating and underwhelming. Ricky Pearsall, by the way, I'm going to move to defense in a second, but I did want to say Ricky Pearsall made arguably the greatest catch we've ever seen. Just because I'm subscribed to Odell Beckham's catch against the Cowboys in 2014 or 2015 was the greatest catch I've ever seen. This one, I think, was better. He went up with one hand and it was just as difficult to catch that ball, I think, if not a little bit more difficult because this one was more on a line. So I think it might have been more difficult, but he reeled it in, got hit by two defenders, and kept it. And for me, I think that's where I really stand as far as I think that might have been the greatest catch I've ever seen. I know that there are a lot of people frustrated with Caleb Douglas and that they feel like he was underwhelming. He's not a good separator. The thing that he does really well, though, is when even though he's not creating separation, he's coming down with the catch. He's been targeted 3 times on contested catches this year. He's come down with all of them. He did fumble. I think that was a better play by the defender than it was more on Caleb Douglas. I think Caleb Douglas made a great job making that catch. I think the defender did a great job of knocking it out after. I understand, Caleb Douglas should have brought it in. It looked to me like the defender was keeping him from being able to draw his arms in. And that's where the defender got to knock it out because of that. So I think that one is falsely being too heavily attributed to Caleb Douglas. And at a certain point, you just have to say, hey, defender made a great play. But again, Caleb Douglas is not a separator really, but he comes down with those contested catches. And that's big for an offense that has struggled with creating consistent separation. We're about to talk about the defense, which did have a very good game. Before we talk about the defense, though, now it's time for your game changer of the week brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. And you guys know, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't care. I just want you to know that I'm being honest and I'm giving you my honest opinion. So I will be honest, even in this ad read. I don't think this week that the Florida Gators had a player or a coach who changed the game the way that Athletic Brewing Company has changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. I don't think anybody on Florida changed the game the way that Athletic Brewing Co. did. Simple as that. You can find Athletic Brewing Co.'s non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON with no space at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company is fit for all times. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. I'm going to be less frustrated as we wrap this show up because the defense did well. I gave Austin Armstrong crap for the timeout. I will give him crap for not making a certain adjustment. which is weird because I think Austin Armstrong this season has been fantastic at making adjustments, and he even made great adjustments against Charlotte. I don't like that when it came to the tight end screen game, which Charlotte went to quite a few times, I don't like that he was just like, let him. I don't get that. It was weird to me. It was just weird. I don't like that was the approach of we're going to blitz the hell out of Charlotte and we're just going to let them do what they want. If they want to take the easy tight end completion, they could take the easy tight end completion. Charlotte tight ends had 9 catches for about 90 yards. It's 87. I'm trying to do the math real quick. About 87 yards. And Colin Whipper had 36 yards after catch. Jake Clemens had 30 yards after the catch. And Bryce Kennan had 14 yards after the catch. So 80 of their about 87 receiving yards came after the catch because they kept going to that tight end screen and tight end in the flat, and they kept finding success doing that. I don't like that Florida was just like, yep, we're going to be really aggressive to stop the option, and we're not going to account for the tight end screen when it was pretty consistently successful. Because that was the big adjustment that Florida and Austin Armstrong made, was that Charlotte eventually at a certain point, they just went, hey, we're going to cut Trexler Ivy out of the game plan. We're going to put Jalen Jones in there. We're going to run an option play, and we're just going to run the option down the field. We're going to run tight end screen, and we're going to pick up our yardage wherever we can. The option was working. So Austin Armstrong said, hey, we're going to be really aggressive. We're going to put 2 of our D tackles right in the A gap. We're going to gap them up there so they can't go inside. And we're going to just shut down the option by being really aggressive. I understand that. What I hated was not accounting for the tight end when you did that. Like, you can still blitz and be very aggressive, but also have someone go for the screen. For example, when Charlotte started running that option and they kept running the option wide, you had them gapped up. And by gapped up, I mean you took away the A gap. When they started running wide on the option, I don't know why Florida didn't say, hey, I get that this is not an ideal situation. D tackles, after they break out and they're not going to the middle, start shifting towards wherever the tight end is and just create havoc. Because if they're running those screens, stop them. Just stop. Like if you're in the vicinity, he's not going to throw that tight end screen. He's not. So I think that when you had them gapped up, that probably should have been the approach. I know there were a couple times where I think there was one time where Princely was there for the screen, but there were 2 or 3 blockers plus the tight end, and it was just Princely in the area, if I'm not mistaken. And that drove me crazy because they'd gone to the screen a few times, and you should have made adjustments for that, and they didn't, and that frustrates me because opposing teams like Georgia's gonna run tight end screen against you probably. They're probably going to do that. Multiple teams are probably going to run tight end screen against you because you didn't give them a reason not to. I also think that Florida showed a weakness defending the option early on. They took a little too long to adjust to it. It was a great adjustment when they did make the adjustment. I think they took a little too long to adjust to it. And teams that run the option a little bit are probably going to focus on it more the week that they play Florida. Like LSU. They run the option a bit because they have Jaden Daniels. It's not a big focal point of their offense, but they run it. I would expect them to go, hey, we're going to call it a little more against Florida because they've kind of shown that you can do that to them. And so I think that could be an issue for Florida down the line. We'll see if it really is, but I think it could be. The pass rush was spectacular. Princely Mamialan has been on a freaking tear the past few weeks. And I'm curious if it's got anything to do with the defensive scheme, because it hasn't changed as far as him dropping into coverage. Maybe he's just starting to get more comfortable with it and getting into a rhythm quicker, because I do feel like dropping into coverage maybe takes him out of rhythm a little bit as a pass rusher. But I mean, yeah, he's played great the past few weeks. Tennessee, he was a wrecking crew. He was a one-man wrecking crew. And against Charlotte, he's a one-man wrecking crew. We got to see that beautiful inside spin move that he breaks out. It's awesome. So after a rough start, he's really gotten into it. He's starting to live up to the preseason hype. He's got 13 pressures over the past 2 games. That's really freaking good. His pass rush win rate has climbed significantly. In fact, let me see the pass rush win rate for Princely Umanmielen dating back to week 1 against Utah. Week 1 against Utah, Princely had a pass rush win percentage of 16.7%, which is, I believe, worse than it was last year. This year, or then week 2, pass rush win percentage of 42.9%. Started breaking out against McNeese, but again, he only played 9 pass defense snaps against McNeese. He wasn't out there very long. Week 3 against Tennessee, pass rush win percentage for Princely, 27.3%. That was big. And then you look at week 4, he had a pass rush win percentage of 36.4%. And the big thing for Princely is that on those true pass sets, and again, true pass sets, according to Pro Football Focus, all these are according to Pro Football Focus, true pass sets take out screens, take out quick passes as in under 2 seconds before the quarterback throws the ball. They take out play action rollouts. They take out RPO. They take out all. True pass percentage. First off, there weren't any. Utah, I think, ran 1 true pass percentage that Princely was on the field for. Got a pressure. True pass percentage week 2 against McNeese. McNeese ran 6 total times against it. Princely got a pressure. He was on the field for 4 of them. He got a pressure on 3 of them. You look at week 3 against Tennessee, and Princely was on the field for 9 true pass sets. He got pressure on 5 of them. And then you look at week 4 against Charlotte, Princely was on the field for 9 true pass sets. He got pressure on 3 of them, and he had a pass rush win rate on 6 of them. He's been dominant in those plays that take longer than 2 seconds, aren't play action rollouts, aren't screens. He's been dominant in those sets. So Princely's having a breakout year right now. He's probably going to be in the NFL with a day 2 or early day 2, if not late day 1 pick next season. And he's going to have a good combine most likely. So enjoy watching number 1 on the defensive side of the ball. I know it was a rough start, but man, he's kicked it into another gear so far the past few weeks. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever this is in the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC, hosted by Chris Gordy of Sports 790. He's awesome. Get the best coverage on the best conference, including the best university, the University of Florida. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole 9 Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I will see you all tomorrow.